People really only move to the Aledo area for a couple of reasons. And today I'm going to cover the pros and cons to help you decide if Aledo's the right place or the wrong place for you and your family. My name's Jared with Living in Aledo, and if you are considering relocating to the Aledo area and you do not live nearby, if you live out of state or outside the Metroplex, this video is going to be vitally important for you to weigh the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. And now, if this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, come back for more. Without further ado, let's get into the list. All right, I'm gonna jump straight into it. Pro number one is the primary reason most people move to the Aledo area, and that's the schools. No ifs, ands, or buts around it. Aledo ISD is a top tier school program, not just in sports. You know, they're known for their football program, but also their academics are very strong. They're in the top 10% of school districts in the Metroplex. And I've mentioned in other videos, if you're looking on the west side of the Metroplex, there's only a couple of school districts that I would consider exemplary. Aledo is one of the top 2 or 3 on the west side of the Metroplex, and then much more affordable than 1 or 2 of those. So when you look at stuff like graduation rate, college preparedness, SAT scores, student progression, all of that stuff is going to be very highly rated across Aledo. I like to give this warning a little bit. You go and you find some sort of school rating system online, right? Greatschools.org or School Digger or something like that. Dig down into their individual scores. Sometimes their overall school rating will get dinged for some reason that maybe isn't as important to you, right? If you're looking at college prep, graduation, SAT scores, sometimes those will be 8s, 9s, and 10s, and something else might be a lower score that drags down the average. So that's something to think about. Now you also have the extracurriculars, the sports, the music, the band. You know, they have a big robotics program. You know, my son is 7. He's doing some like I-9 basketball stuff, and they use the public school gymnasiums. And so we've been in there and they've got, a whole gymnasium full of robotics programs going on. Obviously the football program. I've had multiple, clients move here and they had, high school age boys who were excited to play as a part of the Aledo football system. But it's not just football. There are many other sports programs that are excellent. My wife was in the marching band. She was the band major when she was there. I hope I said that right. I always get band major and drum major confused, and one's not a real thing. So, but she did that. Like, they have an excellent marching band and music program. There's still some teachers that were there when she graduated high school. They're still teaching. So it's not just football. It's not just academics. It's not just athletics. They really do have a really great full-on, school package. And now sometimes with that comes some overexcited parents, comes with, honestly, a lot of private, club sports goes on as well in the off season. So if that's what you're looking for, great. If you're like, I don't want that to be the life that my family runs, you don't have to do that, right? You still got the academics, you still got the schools. Also, good private schools in the area, right? There's also good homeschool co-ops in the area. So there's not just the public schools, there are other school options as well. If you're drawn to Aledo because of everything else, and you want the public schools to be what you can rely on, but maybe you decide you want to go another route, we still have those options. So that is going to be the absolute number one reason people move to Aledo ISD. And if that's not an important reason for you, reach out to me, because there might be other options that you can get, equivalent properties, maybe a lot of the other benefits without paying that kind of the Aledo premium that we talk about when we talk about pricing, which we're going to talk about next. Okay, pro number 2, I'm speaking directly to you families right now, but it's going to be the safety and that community feel. Now, when you compare Aledo to Fort Worth, our violent crime is basically non-existent. Anything could happen anywhere, but there's so little violent crime that on some of the stats, it just doesn't even show up when you start researching it. Now, even property crime is like 7 times less than Fort Worth. Now, yeah, you're gonna have, the stupid spoiled kids who are gonna run around and, I don't know, maybe they egg something, or maybe they take a baseball bat to a sign. Like, that stuff does happen, but when it comes to breaking and entering, theft, robbery, that kind of stuff is so low that some of it doesn't show up really in the criminal statistics. So that's just something that's a huge benefit. There's just a huge family environment. If you have kids and you want to live in a neighborhood and be around other families, There's tons of families out in the Aledo area. Most of the big neighborhoods just have massive concentrations of kids. I have friends who live, in Morningstar, and they said within a month of moving into their brand new home on a street full of brand new homes, they were already on a group chat with all, the mom was already on a group chat with all the other moms, and they would get together and they would talk and they'd keep up with each other, see where the kids were. I have friends who live in parks of Aledo, and she's like, hey, I love it. Like, my house is the hub and we have kids in and out of our house all the time. I mean, it's stressful for her because she likes to keep her house super clean. But like the idea of being able to have kids in and out and around is great. Like, Walsh is great. A lot of people think of Walsh as like the kid mecca, or families with kids move there. Well, you know what? You know who follows grandkids a lot of times? Grandparents. I've had clients who they moved to Walsh to be close to their grandkids, and then they relocated inside Walsh because they wanted something that fit their lifestyle better. So there's just so much of this like family orientation that Aledo's great if that's what you're looking for, right? Lots of families, lots of age ranges of kids. That comes with the schools. That comes with pro number one. People move there for the schools, and so those people have kids. My in-laws have lived in Aledo since 1996, and they love it. So that safety, the community feel, the community vibe. Yeah, sometimes there's negatives. There's the over-involved Facebook groups of everyone complaining about something going on, but overall, that community and the family and the safety vibe, it's really hard to match, really hard to beat what we have out here in Aledo. All right, pro number 3 is going to be, I think, the available space and housing variety, right? It's the fact that we have so many options that whether you're a first-time home buyer with a young family, looking for that 3-bed, 2-bath, and you want to be in a good school district, we've got the homes and the neighborhoods that fit your budget and your needs. And if you're on the other end of the spectrum, right? You're successful in your career, you have a long track record, you're looking for that 4,000-5,000 square foot home on 1 to 3 acres, and your budget is $1.5 to $2+ million. We have that as well, and we have stuff ranging in between, right? Aledo might best historically be known for, okay, we want 1 to 2 acres, 3 to 3,500 square feet. Those homes are going to range 800 to $1 million on average, right? They're going to be 20 to 25 years old. If you want brand new construction on 1 to 2 acres, we have it. You want brand new construction in a master plan community? We have it. You want a farmhouse on 5 to 10 acres? We have it. That entry-level home? We have it. You're looking for that second, that third home for your family? We have it. We have basically any home variety type you want. Unless you're looking for a condo, we don't do condos out in Aledo yet. We do even have some townhomes now. They're very close to downtown Aledo, just south. Not a whole lot, but we have so many varieties, so many options that if Aledo's the right place for you, then we have the right type of home for you. So I think that's a really good positive. We've got horse-friendly type property down to little postage stamps. If you're like, I don't want to touch my yard, I want someone else to do it. Hey, we've got you. So I think that's a major positive that no matter what type of property you're looking for, we probably have a great option for you. Okay, pro number 4 really is going to cover a lot of like outdoor and weekend type activities, maybe evening activities that you do with your kids or your friends. But we have a pretty big number of golf courses in and around the area. We do have the super high-end stuff that's going to be private, like, Maverick and Blue Jack. I'm not even talking about those. I'm talking about the ones that are public or semi-public or have, membership options, but that you can drop in, pay a fee, and just golf. We have Lake Weatherford. We have lakes that you can get access to within 30 minutes. So the location, the hub of the of the Aledo area and where you can get to is super convenient and kind of across the board. We have trails, parks, outdoor activities. I have clients who've moved from Colorado, and when he discovered the trail system at Parks of Aledo, he fell in love. Like, he's a mountain biker, he's from Colorado. And, I was kind of making sure that I downplayed it. I was like, hey, it's probably not going to be what you're used to. It's not going to be as great, but I've heard it's pretty good. I have some friends who like to mountain bike. And he fell in love with it. Now, he's like, it's still not Colorado, right? But he's like, dude, it scratches the itch. Like, it feels great. And discovering that trail system totally reoriented where he wanted to live in the Aledo area. So we have those options. We have gun ranges. We have like indoor electronic gun ranges. We have just lots of recreational areas. We have like, a small family owned water park in Hudson Oaks. We have like the trampoline parks. So we've got a lot of stuff for not being inside a major city that you can do in the evenings and the weekends with your friends and with your family. Okay, pro number 5, and the last one on the list, is really going to be proximity to a major metroplex without an urban feel. So you're 20 to 30 minutes from downtown Fort Worth, depending on how far out in Aledo you live. And that puts you within 30 minutes of one of the fastest growing metroplexes in the nation, right? So Fort Worth has a ton of major employers. I mean, it's got a ton of medical space. It's got the NAS JRB, the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, if you're in the military or you're in the reserves. We've got DFW International Airport if you're a pilot. We have Lockheed Martin if you're an engineer. And then we have everything else that surrounds that. Major accounting firms, tax firms, all this stuff super centrally located in Fort Worth. And that's not even considering, stuff you have access to in Weatherford. So access to all the major employers, but also you get to feel a little bit spaced out and away from the craziness of what it truly is to live inside the Metroplex. Okay, so far I've told you all the great things about moving to the Aledo area, but it is not all roses and rainbows. So I do want to get to some of these cons that you should be aware of, some of the negatives associated with these positives, to give you a balanced view to help you make a great decision for you and your family. Now, if you get through these cons and you are still interested in moving to the Aledo area, reach out to me sooner rather than later. Let's get some time on my calendar, especially as this season heats up. I want to make sure I can book some time, help you make a wise decision, maybe give you a tour of the area and make sure that you get to experience and see these neighborhoods from a local's perspective to help you make a great decision for your family. But let's jump into the cons. Okay, now con number one that I want to jump straight into is going to be costs and probably carrying cost. It really is more important than that. Because yes, Aledo does have a higher home value than the rest of Parker County, and it has a higher, median and average home value than most of Tarrant County, not all parts of Tarrant County. I like to compare it to Southlake to a degree. It's not a good comparison right now. It's not apples to apples. The average home value in Southlake is like 1.5 million. The average home value in Fort Worth is like $425,000, $450,000. The average home value in Aledo is about $650,000 to $700,000. But it's not just cost, right? Because if that's your price range, that's not a negative. But where could there be some cons associated with the Aledo area? The tax rate for Aledo ISD is higher than some other ISDs. So, you have your overall tax rate for your property. I have a video about how to not overpay your taxes. But the tax rate for Aledo ISD portion of your taxes is 1.2%. Well, Weatherford is only 1%. So that's 20% higher on the school portion of your taxes. HOAs are super common out in the Aledo area. It's like 65% of homes kind of fall into an HOA. Now, maybe it's $250 a year like mine. Maybe it's $3,500 a year, like the higher end Walsh areas, right? So that's something to consider. Depending on the neighborhoods you're in and the utilities, you could have even higher taxes because of PIDs or MUDs. So when you combine a higher than average value, and then you get a higher than average tax rate, that means your taxes are going to be pretty high. Then you have your HOAs. And so that's going to play into your carrying costs and what your budget can look like, right? Your budget can vary wildly from neighborhood to neighborhood. I have a video where I discuss what you're able to buy in Walsh versus what that same dollar amount or that same monthly carrying cost covers if you were to buy in Parks of Aledo. So there's no best option for anyone, but not only is Aledo going to be a little bit higher than your average just for the general Metroplex, it's also going to vary wildly inside Aledo. So you need to work with someone who can help you understand the impact for your finances. Now, before I move on to con number two, if you're looking for Aledo on a budget, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but I mean, hey, you have a property type you'd really like, and you realize you're probably $100,000 to $200,000 away from that being a realistic option for you in Aledo. If you're willing to take, to live about 20 minutes further out, Brock can be a great option for you. I have some videos on Brock. You can get the equivalent property, some of the equivalent properties in Brock, and you can save $100,000 to $200,000. So that's a great option to consider. I've had clients do that. If you like Aledo, but you don't really like what it's going to do to your bank account, Brock is a great option for you if the geographic distance change works for you. Okay, now con number two is a necessary evil that comes with growth. And that's going to be the construction and the traffic that's required to continue to be able to service the population as it grows. And that's kind of happening everywhere all at once right now. I'll be honest, this is probably the worst part of Aledo for the next couple of years is going to be the traffic, because not only is the state, is TxDOT working on improving the highway system going through the Aledo area and into Fort Worth, they're working on 20 and they're working on 30 going into downtown. So all of that's being worked on. There's a couple of bridges that are being worked on along that span as well. And then like Aledo is going to be working on expanding south of Aledo downtown, FM5's, under there. They're going to be working on expanding those roads in the next couple of years. Right now, I mean, this won't last that long, but they're even going through and they're like doing some like resealing on these roads. So like there's a couple of spots on FM5 and 1187 where it gets down to one lane. And since it's only a 2-lane road, that means they have to, stop one lane of traffic, let everyone go that direction for a couple minutes, then stop that, and then let the other person or the other lane travel the other direction. So sometimes, and then Kelly Road, they're working on that because of all the construction. So it seems like every major road right now has some level of construction on it. And it's the least fun part of Aledo right now. Now, most of that is like very temporary, right? The current 1-lane closures on FM5 and 1187, that's going to be a couple months max. The highway traffic, the highway construction, that's going to be like a 3-phase project spanning till like 2030. That's going to be varying levels of inconvenience and traffic and impact, right? It's not always going to be a static amount of impact. But for years, the joke has been, you don't want to, we always could make fun of 35 is really what it is. We could always say 35 sucks going north of Fort Worth. Unfortunately, we can now kind of say that, and really it's rush hour. There was at one point they were actually got down to 1 lane each direction. And so even in the middle of the day, it was pretty bad. From what I'm seeing right now, it's mostly rush hour. It gets pretty bad. And then the other parts of the day, it's not too bad. With all the growth that is positive, there are stuff like the development and the construction that is not positive. So that is something to think about. If that's a hard turnoff for you, that is something to consider. But I would say this is the most negative part of Aledo right now, and it's temporary. Okay, now con number 3, I'm probably going to harp on a little less than I have in past videos, but I still think there's some validity to this, and that's going to be like the dining and the nightlife and some of those style conveniences, right? So one of our major gripes for a number of years was that really there wasn't any like really reliably good restaurants on the east side of Parker County. And so what do I mean by that? I mean kind of like from Walsh all the way to, the far side of Hudson Oaks, there wasn't anywhere that we wanted to go for a date night, to go out, without the kids, to just, mom and dad getting away and having a nice date night. For years. And that was our major complaint. We always went to Fort Worth for a date night. We'd occasionally go to Weatherford. There was, some good stuff. Most of the Weatherford stuff is more like the nice franchises, right? You can get good meals there, but we kind of like to not go to the major franchises. So that was a major complaint. We'd go somewhere and it'd be okay one night. We'd go again, and then the consistency wasn't there. Maybe the quality wasn't there. Maybe we felt like they were too expensive for the type of stuff we were paying for. Surely because the people who lived out in the Aledo area were a little, higher disposable incomes. I think that's changing. I think that is improving now. You do have some restaurants that me and my wife are happy to go to, and it actually almost like totally changes the vibe of date night when you go somewhere and you spend 10 minutes driving rather than 25 minutes. Now, we don't have like a super high-end steakhouse. We still like to go to Clear Fork in Fort Worth for our date nights and stuff. But now you've got Cork and Pig, you've got HG Supply. Those are great like date night type places. You have Dane's Craft Barbecue, which is a great barbecue. They're open, I think, like Thursday through Sunday. So if you come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're probably not going to get to try them out. But great. It's not cheap, but it's one of the few places that I think, you're probably actually not like way overpaying because the quality's there. And then we have just, you have some of those good like normal places to go that aren't super expensive, that are nice casual dinners. And so really, I do think this is changing, but it is not the same as living in Fort Worth. It is not the same as living in South Lake. So that is something to consider. And there's really no like nightlife scene. There's like, I don't know if there's any bars other than like some really hole in the wall places, right? There's no nice like stuff that would be similar to going on, West 7th and Fort Worth. That's not really there. The nightlife really non-existent. consistent, but I do think the dining quality has significantly increased and will continue to increase. So all that being said, there are some places that we do think qualify for good date night places. You probably actually want reservations because they stay pretty busy. But if you want something else, then Fort Worth is not that far away. Clear Fork is not that far away and has a lot of great options. All right. Con number 4 is what I'm going to call kind of the rural trade-offs. Now, for some people, this isn't much of a negative and maybe they prefer these things, but for someone not used to this could be a negative. So I want to touch on it. So first, you are a little bit more rural, so you're gonna have more bugs and critters, right? We actually had a skunk living around our property for a little while. We found a couple of like burrows like under our propane tank and under the AC pad. Our dog got sprayed once. So that's very uncommon. We've lived in our neighborhood in our same house for like 6 years now, and it's only ever happened once, but that is something that happened. Sometimes I've seen them here and there, not in my home. You have these, little tiny scorpions, right? That you'll see out and about, or, maybe they get caught in your bug traps. So bugs, critters, deer. I love the fact that we have deer everywhere. But it is possible to hit a deer on the road, right? So not really possible to hit a deer in the middle of a downtown center, right? That's not going to happen. Out in the country or the rural suburb that I say that we live in, there's lots of deer, and it's not uncommon to see a deer that's been hit on the side of the road. So obviously someone had to hit it. So that's a negative. I would say it could fall into a negative category. Now, I've had clients come in and they're like, hey, Jared, we do not want well and septic. We want city utilities, and that's great. That's totally fine. That's just going to cut down on a lot of the available options, and you're going to have to focus on certain neighborhoods over others. So if you're wanting a large home on an acre and you don't want a private well and septic, that's a negative, because pretty much everything on an acre or more is going to be private well and septic. And propane, right? You're not going to have gas utility lines run to these neighborhoods. So if you want gas or gas equivalent, you're gonna have a propane tank, which you're gonna have to refill. Now, I personally prefer all of these things. I think I'm getting out at least a little bit cheaper over time. I'm also not beholden to a single provider. Internet, something that is improving. We recently got fiber internet in our neighborhood, but before that we had the old AT&T copper lines. So that's something you have to be thinking about and consider is, okay, is the neighborhood that I'm looking at, is there high-speed internet? Do I need fiber? Am I okay with lower speed stuff? Do I wanna get Starlink? What does that look like, right? Sometimes your options are gonna be a little bit more limited or a little bit less certain, requiring you to do more homework. And then I would say, fewer immediate conveniences, right? We have all the major stuff we need within 5 to 10 minutes, right? We've got the H-E-B, we've got a Brookshires, we can get to Costco. We've got all that. But, okay, maybe you're a Kroger shopper. We don't have a Kroger or an Albertsons anywhere near us, right? We've got the Walmart in, Hudson Oaks, Weatherford. But the sheer amount of options and availability is going to be significantly less. But that's not to say we don't have what we need. We have plenty of what we need. It's just not a grocery store every, half mile going down the main strip. So that's something to think about, is what comes with living in a little more rural environment. Again, I do not classify Aledo as truly rural, but that is something to think about, is because we're a little further out, because the population density isn't where, the mid cities are, Arlington, Hearst, Euless, Bedford, all those areas in between Dallas and Fort Worth. We don't have the population to demand that there's a million things everywhere that are going to be able to stay open based on the current population. That'll probably change. I don't really think any of those specific things should be a deal breaker unless you're totally opposed to like well and septic. Then you just look for a neighborhood where you can be on city utilities. You're going to pay more. You're going to have a higher tax rate. You're going to have, probably higher bills for that. But if that's something that you prioritize, then that's totally fine. Okay, so you've made it to the end of the video, and maybe you're still wondering, okay, I've got the pros and cons. I'm sure there's more to know about, but is Aledo going to be the best fit for me? Am I a good fit for Aledo? And I'm going to give you maybe a little bit of a cheat sheet, some things to consider that might make you more certain that Aledo is a good option for you, and maybe some things to consider that if they resonate with you more strongly, then Aledo might not be the best place for you. So first, if schools are a top priority, Aledo should be a contender for you. Aledo ISD is in the top 10% of school districts in the entire Metroplex. And really, if you look on the west side of the Metroplex, on the Fort Worth side going west, there's only one or two other options that are very reasonably comparable. and some of them are significantly more expensive than Aledo, like South Lake. And the living style is going to be very different, much more of a suburban sprawl as opposed to like a rural suburb. So the other thing is, if you want more space and safety, right? If you want to be a little further out from the concentration of the Metroplex, if you don't want to be on the Dallas side, you want that a little bit of space. You want to drive home, see some green fields, see some cows, but also not be that far from everything, then Aledo's great. Here's the other thing that I mentioned is, if you're going to value your daily lifestyle over kind of the nightlife or the high-end evening activities being close by, Aledo's great, right? So the daily life, the schools, the parks, the family orientation, all that, if that's the priority, great. Now, why might Aledo not be a great fit for you? There's a couple of things. And if you want walkability, you're really not going to be in really any kind of suburb. You're going to need to be in a downtown area, or you're going to need to be willing to live in something maybe like a condo or mixed use place, you know. And again, I'll bring up South Lake. South Lake has some of these like really high-end apartments, really nice condos, really nice townhomes that are right in and around like high-end shopping and stuff like that, right? That creates a walkable environment. We don't really have any of that in Aledo, and we won't have any of that anytime soon. Let's touch on that high-end stuff. If you want luxury dining, luxury experience, you want the true, like, I had a client that was looking for this, and I think they are kind of deciding what's really important, the true like golf cart style living. Like if you want to be like less than 5 minutes from a bunch of high-end dining, a bunch of high-end shopping, a bunch of, the golf courses. You want to drive your golf cart to the golf course. Aledo's not a great fit for that. We have all that stuff, but it's not going to be 5 minutes. It's going to be 20 or 25 minutes. So if you're valuing that as a priority, that's going to say, hey, Aledo, maybe not the best option for you. Okay, so then the last thing that's really kind of a temporary, a major negative, but if you're really averse to being in and around construction, that's going to be a major issue for you for the next couple of years. There's so much development going on. There's so much growth. The population is increasing because of all the positives that TxDOT has just started working to expand the highway system. So they're having to increase the lanes on I-20, on 30. They're having to lower some stuff. They're adding some bridges, and there's going to be construction for the next couple of years. So if that is something that you absolutely are unwilling to handle, then maybe your move to Aledo needs to happen in 4 to 5 years, right? Maybe it's not today. It is inconvenient. I'm going to be totally honest. It's inconvenient, but it is a necessary evil that comes with the positives that we get to experience when we live here. All right, now as a final reminder, I have so much more content on the channel. If you're looking for anything neighborhood specific, go look for that. I have a ton of content here for you. And if you are ready to take the next steps in that potential move to the Aledo area, let's connect. If you have a trip planned out here, maybe a business is relocating you, or you're looking for job offers, let's figure out when you're coming out. Let's get some time on my calendar. Let's make sure I can set aside some time for you, and let's start that conversation sooner rather than later. So thanks for being here, and until next time.